everybody, my name is Madison, and this is going to serve as a partial testimony of why I like Jesus now. So the sequence of events of this video are going to be what I practiced, what happened to me by practicing those things, aka spiritual attachment or demonic possession, and then where I am now. First, I'm going to tell you that I was a New Ager, which is really just New Age occultism, just by a different name. It practices spiritual satanic doctrines and a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you think I'm wrong, how about you do 50 plus hours of research and write a big old paper on it like I did. So I made several lists. Hopefully I don't forget anything about what I practiced or what happened to me. And this is going to be really hard for me to talk about, and it's taken me approximately a month and a half or 2 months to record this, because I am terrified of what happened to me and I don't want it to happen to me again. It was really hard. It was the hardest time in my life, and if you know anything about my past, you know that that has to be pretty freaking bad. And the worst part of my life ever began in probably December of 2016. That's when severe anxiety started, and that's also when my spiritual practices became very New Agey. So as a New Ager, there really is no form or structure as to what you are allowed and not allowed to do. There's actually no wrong that can be done in the New Age. There's no talk of sin. There's no talk of erroneous behavior whatsoever. It's kind of like the first satanic statement: do as your own will and do whatever you want. So I did whatever I wanted, and it ended up really terrible and awful and horrible. Here's what I practiced. Crystal healing, law of attraction for 5 years, Taoism, raising my frequency, affirmations to the point where all of my thoughts became affirmations, ritualistic meditation including certain colors of candles to harness a chakra or money or love or whatever. Daily yoga, chakra work, I tried to do Reiki, energy healing, food healing, science of mind, color therapy. I would wear the color yellow for my solar plexus or red for my root chakra, and the likes. Sound healing, I listened to binaural beats, as well as certain frequencies like 528, 432, stuff like that to heal my DNA and the love frequencies. Trying to release my ego in a book that gave me 33 steps to your infinite self, and that turned out horrible. Crystal charging in the moon and stuff like that. Also, I prayed to the moon. I also worshipped Mother Earth as a goddess. I also worshipped Louise Hay as pretty much a god. I thought she was just the best thing ever because she taught me that I could heal anything in my life through the power of my own mind and my own personal power, because I am important. I did incense. I lit incense for specific healing and ritual properties. I was starting to become my own god. I thought I was becoming the one consciousness. I went to cemeteries and I talked to the dead. I tried to harness mediumship. I just felt a certain pull with certain graves, and I went and I talked with them for probably 30 to 40 minutes. I was trying to harness my I am presence. I was trying to encompass myself in the violet flame. Also was really deep into astrology. I mapped out people's natal charts, looked at planetary alignments, all the properties of that. I also got so deep in that I did not see people as people anymore. I saw them as their zodiac signs, and I definitely stopped getting to know people because I thought I knew them because I looked up their natal chart. I was wrong. Practice numerology. Self-power, meaning I had self-love and acceptance, and if I had that, my whole world, I thought, could just be light, love, and happiness. I pulled from every spiritual practice that exists. Maybe not every spiritual practice, but enough to where I felt like I had one of everything, except Christianity, because I refused to look into that. I also practiced feng shui. I tried to call out to my spirit guides to lead me to where I was supposed to be. Practicing clairvoyancy and psychic abilities, claircognizance and stuff like that. I became really good at that. I could see visions of what other people were thinking. I used aromatherapy to heal myself of illnesses and to raise my vibration and to be more holistic and natural. I started to channel energies in various forms, which is really, I was just trying to manipulate energy in my own reality. through everything I was practicing, mostly the law of attraction and intentions of love. I started to really truly believe in fairies. Also, when it came to the afterlife, I started to believe in reincarnation, but I also thought that I was on one of my last lives and that I was going to ascend to a higher astral plane. And I'm going to be completely honest, the first time I ever said that, I had no idea what that even meant, but it sounded good, so I said it. Also summoning archangels, which if you're not familiar with that, you basically are calling out to these archangels to protect you and to keep you safe and all that stuff. And now I look back on it and I do not think that is what they were. It's kind of scary to think about because I don't really want to mention a lot of scripture in here to like rebuke what I was doing, because I'm pretty sure the truth is going to speak for itself without going into scriptural defense. But when Satan fell, when Lucifer fell from the heavens, he took 1/3 of all of the angels with him, and he now is the prince of the airs, has control over this air. And how was I to know which archangel I was summoning? I was so sure of myself that I could summon this exact archangel and I wouldn't have any error whatsoever. I thought I was so powerful that I could summon these spiritual energies and have them protect me in the way that I wanted them to. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, is the symptoms that I was can you see this? No, not really. Yeah, there we go. All this is what I was experiencing. I had to write it all out because I didn't want to forget anything, because I want this to be honest, true, and full. It was a spiritual battle inside of my body, and if you've ever had one of those, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, let's get to it. Physical and outward symptoms that people could see, or they were on the outside and they were measurable by eyes that were not just my own. I had headaches, migraines constantly, especially in the crown of my head just up here. Body aches that I never really had before. I started to feel like something was growing out of my back. So right underneath my neck and right above the middle of my shoulder blades, it started to feel like something was growing out of my back, like decrepit and just weird. And it was so bad that I started to cry. I would have tears in my eyes just laying down or standing at work. That's another thing. I quit my job because I didn't want to be around people. I started to isolate myself. My vision got worse and I already wore glasses. I had hot flashes and my entire face and cheeks would just like get super red, like not like pink, like I'm embarrassed, I just said something stupid, but to the point where it would take like 2 hours for my face not to be red anymore. Sensitivity to sounds and light. I started to drop things. I became clumsy, and I'm not really a clumsy person. My teeth started to hurt. I had digestive problems, weird itching. I would get like weird heat rashes, like, and it was like the winter time when I had hot flash. It was weird. I had extreme temperature changes in my body. My nails started to become yellow and brittle. My hair kind of fell out a lot, actually. When I would take a shower, I would have like clumps of hair in my hand, like I was like malnutritioned, even though I'm very vitamin enriched. I had a constant scowl on my face. It was really, I started to get like lines in between my brows because I was scowling so much. My throat was dry, often like it is now because I'm talking a lot. I had an inability to sit in the light. I had cardboard in my windows to block out all natural lighting. In my townhome, I didn't want any of the curtains open. I didn't want there to be any light that touched me. When there was a bright light on in class, I did not want to be there and I would often leave. I started to crave the darkness and no natural light. I didn't want anything light. I didn't wear colors anymore. I wore black. Only black, and not like, oh yeah, I look cool, I'm metal black, but like, she is on something black. I started to neglect my body. I stopped using deodorant. I stopped washing my face. I didn't really wash my hair. I didn't take care of myself whatsoever. And I basically cut everyone out of my life. All of my friends, did not talk to anybody at all. I felt very alone and awful. So developed, this is what kind of like took me over the edge with physical symptoms. This is one of the last symptoms I had, and this is kind of what shook me. I started to develop a really weird rash. Like it was like a purging, but it was all over my body. It started on my face, and it wasn't really like acne because it wasn't like pimples, like you couldn't like squeeze anything out. I know that's kind of gross, but that's just what it was. It was like all of my pores were clogged, but it was like they were just like right under the surface and like nothing would come out. And it started on my face and like it spread like all over my face. It went down my neck, which I've never really had like any type of pimple on my neck before. Went onto my chest, down my shoulder blades, and down my arms, like all the way down here. And they were just bumps, like there was no redness whatsoever. It was like, I can't explain it. And it started to go all the way down my spine as well, which is not a place where I've ever really gotten any sort of breakout ever. And it was terrifying because I thought I was a monster, and none of those things I was practicing, no crystal healing, no aromatherapy, no herbal medicine was helping me at all, and it scared me half to death. I felt like a monster. Oh, also, I couldn't listen to music. Starting in February of 2017, I couldn't listen to music anymore. I really, like, if you know me, you know music is freaking huge for me. I couldn't. I could listen to maybe the sound healing frequencies or whatever, stupid, but I couldn't listen to metal. I couldn't listen to rock. I couldn't listen to anything. I didn't enjoy anything. I was very depressed. I couldn't do anything. But now let's talk about the emotional and mental things I was starting to experience, such as psychosis. This connection to everything and everyone, I just didn't feel connected anymore. I had severe crippling anxiety to the point where I couldn't hang out with people, and I would cancel on almost every single person I had plans to hang out with. And that was for no reason, actually. I could never figure it out. Jealousy, which started to become jealous of other people's happiness. It was really weird. I started to become very greedy. I couldn't stop buying things. I had compulsive behavior, which was like buying things and other things like that, acting on a whim. Isolation, I already talked about that. Obsessive thinking. I was suffocated by fear. I had dangerous mood fluctuations. I had a negative outlook on life, which was weird because all of my intentions were focused on love, light, and happiness. I felt out of control, even though that's all I ever wanted by doing all these spiritual practices, control. I felt like someone was out to get me. I was suicidal for the first time since I was 17 years old. I felt helpless. I was drowning in worry. I was in constant fear. I couldn't do anything. I had to move out in like a month, and I couldn't even think about that. I actually opted out of doing this project in class so I would lose credit. I ended up doing it later after I was saved by the Lord. But at first, I was going to opt out and lose 25% credit, which is not like me. If you know anything about me, I am a huge studious nerd. I was experiencing thoughts that were not my own. One time something happened in class, and like an assignment was handed out or whatever, and like I thought something, and then immediately this intruding thought said to me, well, it doesn't matter because you're gonna die anyway. That wasn't my thought. I did not think that. I wasn't even suicidal at that point in time. I didn't want to die. Thoughts telling me to isolate myself, telling me that you can't be around anybody because they don't understand you and that they don't practice what you do and they don't believe what you do, so you can't be around those people. Also, every time I had a thought, there would be another voice in my head invalidating that thought immediately. I had extreme personality changes. There were days in class where I didn't talk to anybody. And if you know me, I like people. I had crying spells to the point where it felt like my heart was getting ripped out. My time perception changed. That was really weird. Like sometimes time would go by really quick and sometimes it'd go by really slow, as if I was intoxicated on some sort of drug. Hysteria, which, you know, kind of goes hand in hand with everything that I was experiencing. And now here comes the paranormal and spiritual stuff, which is really going to take all of this spiritual attack on my body over the edge. Excuse me as I hydrate myself. Alright. Some of these things I used to be really happy about because some of these symptoms, you find them on the ascensionsymptoms.com website and you think, oh yeah, I'm ascending to a higher plane. My consciousness is getting raised, but then you go and look at a demonic possession and spiritual attachment list of symptoms and they're basically identical. Lights would go out around me. Technology would start to be on the fritz when I entered the room. I could think of 6 individual times right now where lights went out when I was in a certain room or I was in a hallway. I could predict the future in small cases. My psychic abilities were harnessed and they were pretty accurate. I could read people's thoughts to a point, claircognizance, if you will. I started to know things that I couldn't possibly have known by being a human being. One of those things being I knew I was gonna die, and I don't know how to explain that to you. I don't know how to explain it to myself really, but it was like an intuitive knowing that I was going to die. I talked to dead people in cemeteries, as I mentioned before, and I felt very drawn to go back there often. Animals started to be weird around me. My snake would not want me to hold her. She would try to get out of my hands immediately, and usually we were like linked. Like she wanted to be like on my shoulders, in my hair, on my head, all that, and then she didn't want to be around me whatsoever. I didn't trust anything at all in life. I felt like there was a presence around me all the time. I felt like it was my spirit guide at first, or the archangels that I summoned guiding me or whatever, but I just never really felt like I was alone spiritually. I felt like something was on me or near me or surrounding me. Only now do I know that they were negative energies. I had an inability to talk about Jesus and God. I couldn't be around holy objects whatsoever. The first time I tried to go to church in like the first week of May, couldn't say the word Jesus. I physically could not say Jesus' name. I couldn't. I felt like I didn't belong here spiritually. I felt like I was being called to go somewhere else spiritually, to like to my home, which really now I think was the demons trying to tell me to kill myself so I could go to hell. I had heightened discomfort in any sort of social interaction whatsoever. I didn't want to talk about anything at all other than my spiritual practices. I also experienced more synchronicities, like repeating numbers and dumb little things like that, so I thought I was like still ascending and I thought I was on the right path. My perception changed from day to day. I would have one state of consciousness for like the first part of the day, and even like later in the day I would feel like a completely different person. Sometimes that was hourly, sometimes it was daily. I felt like I was going insane. That was really cool. This is harder for me to explain because I still don't understand it, but I'm gonna tell you that May 2nd, that was probably one of the worst days in my entire life. I started to, my rash was severe, all of these physical symptoms. I felt like, again, I was going crazy. I didn't understand it. I knew that if I continued on the path I was on and none of these spiritual practices were helping me anymore, that I was going to kill myself or I was going to die. I knew I was going to die, but I didn't necessarily know how. But I was in the shower at night and I was breaking down because I couldn't I felt like a monster. I felt like I felt awful. I felt like a demon was inside of me, but I didn't know the words for that yet. And I truly felt like that day God was screaming at me, calling out to me, Madison, what is it gonna take for you to come to me? You have no friends, you have no job, your health sucks, you feel like a monster, your spiritual practices aren't doing anything for you, your emotional, mental well-being is the worst it's ever been in your entire life. What is it gonna take for you to come to me? And I cried and cried and cried. And I finally said, God, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening right now. I'm listening to you. I cannot stress how much I did not want to open the Bible, that I did not want to go to God, that I did not want to go and be a Jesus freak and be a Christian. I thought Christians were inferior. I thought they were ignorant. I thought I was so smart because I knew all of these spiritual truths and all of these really occultist doctrines, and I thought that my way was the right way and that Christians were wrong and that they were just living in a dogmatic religion. And actually that's not true. If you go and ask any Christian, they'll probably tell you that they're spiritual, not religious. And it actually talks about how in the Bible we're not to be religious but spiritual, but that is another topic for another time. I was also terrified of what people were going to think of me. That was probably my biggest thing. I was afraid that they weren't going to like me anymore because I sought other people's approval, because truly, even though I practiced self-love and self-approval, I probably never actually had it. I'm going to be the first one to tell you how wrong I was about everything. I had all of these opinions about Christians and I'd never even read the Bible. And if you are like I was and you have all these opinions about Christianity, yet you've never read anything in the book that they actually live by or that they're supposed to live by, dude, you can't have a say in anything. That's like giving a movie review and you haven't even seen the movie. The more I read in the Bible, the more I realize how wrong I was about Christianity. It's so much cooler than you think, and the Bible can be pretty brutal, which is also very cool. Basically, I'm just gonna try to make this short. I can just tell you that the first week after I prayed Jesus and accepted him into my heart, On May 11th, I felt normal. For the first time since I was 10 years old, I felt normal. I just can't explain that. Jesus is like basically the channel to get to God and feel that personal connection. I don't feel disconnected. When I talk to God, He talks back to me. I don't feel like I'm talking into a void. The love that I feel from Jesus Christ and from this God, this one true God, it's incomparable. It is so much more. It's so much more full than all the love that I thought I had from the universe and from my spirit guides and from these archangels. It's so much better. And I'm not going to tell you it was all happiness and rainbows, but I'm going to tell you that it was possible to get out of what I was going through. I know for a fact that if I had not turned to Jesus, I would be dead right now. I will let you know that sometimes I still have anxious days, but I don't feel crazy anymore. I feel like a normal human being. I'm not letting other people live for me. That's also very freeing. I have friends again. I know how to, I stopped making friends a long time ago, but I lost all my friends and now I have them back. And my true friends, they don't care that I'm a Christian. They think it's pretty cool. I tell people about the spiritual warfare I had and no one judges me any differently. And those people who are gonna judge me, dude, I don't care. I'm not living for you. I'm not living for anyone other than God anymore. I'm not gonna let anyone else think for me, because when I was doing that, that's when I got into the New Age, and that's when I became mystical spiritual, and that's how I got spiritual attachment, and that's how I almost died. Christianity is everything I ever wanted in spirituality without any strings attached. I have to accept Jesus into my heart as my Lord and Savior, and then live as a good person, love people. That's all I've ever wanted. I'm not spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically exhausted anymore by my spiritual practices. I don't need to do affirmations. I don't need to do meditation. I don't need to do yoga. I don't need to do binaural beats. I don't need to wear crystals anymore. I don't need to become one with the universe, which is a fruitless thing. With God, I have the strength to finally admit things to myself that I would never admit, such as I have been struggling with an eating disorder since I was 14 years old. I now have the strength from Jesus and from God to admit that and to be more open with actually all of my struggles, opposed to hiding them away like I used to. For those of you who watched the whole thing, thank you, and I really hope you've kept an open mind and an open heart. Thank you for everyone who has already supported me thus far. I really appreciate it. This was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. God bless, my friends. God bless.